Yo, this is Rich Latta from One Nation Radio. This is brought to you by the Social Suplex Podcast Network. We present to you the Ace of Podcasts, Keepin' It Strong Style. Let's go. It's the Ace of Podcasts, Keepin' It Strong Style. Covering New Japan, they ready to hold it down. Jeremy Donovan and the young boy Josh. Come and hit a job out and bury all the frauds. From the Tokyo Dome over to the G1. Social Suplex is the network where we can get it done. I'ma chill and let them have it, cause this is just an intro. Keeping the strong style, 6 stars from the get-go, boy. Yeah, from Tampa Bay to the Tokyo Dome, this is Keeping It Strong Style with your hosts, Jeremy Donovan and the young boy Joshua Smith. And thank you for listening.
Welcome to Keeping It Strong Style on the Social Suplex Podcast Network. I'm your host, Jeremy Donovan, alongside my co-host, the young boy, Josh Smith. Josh, how you doing?
You know, man, they said it couldn't be done. They said we wouldn't be back. We're here. We're in the house. I got 2 words for you. Social Suplex Network, we're taking over.
This is where the big boys play on Keeping It Strong Style, the ace of podcasts.
You know, I really wanted to call this the once in a lifetime or 1 in 1,000 podcast, but Jeremy wouldn't let me do it. He thought Ace of Podcast sounded better. But I'm a Tanahashi. I mean, it's Tanahashi either way, whatever.
All right, we are the Ace Podcast, and you can find us on the Social Suplex Podcast Network. Make sure you subscribe on Podbean, Stitcher, Google Play, Apple Podcasts, anywhere you get your podcasts, you can find us. Type in Social Suplex Podcast Network and go ahead and leave us that Dave Meltzer 5-star rating.
5-star special. No 4.5. No 2 3/4. None of that crap. 5 stars. We need it. We'll pay for it. Not really, but whatever.
So this week we're going to start off by talking about the World Tag League, which is happening right now. And as of this recording, the finals have not happened yet, but this episode will be dropping
a few days before?
No, this episode drops like a day after the finals.
Okay.
So on next week's episode, we will have full coverage of the World Tag League finals. And
I mean, if anyone out there is really following it to the extent that they're already going to have seen the finals by the time they catch our podcast, I mean, God bless them. It's the World Tag League. I think we're all kind of cherry picking at this point.
Yeah, I mean, you know, we always talk about WWE's off season is usually the fall time.
They don't have an off season.
Well,
they kill those guys.
Well, it's off season as far as creative stuff, as far as storylines. Like
right.
Usually nothing hot happens in the fall during WWE. So the World Tag League is like the off season for New Japan, so to speak. There's not that much that's really happening in the World Tag League. The matches are, you know, decent. You're going to see a lot of 3 stars to 3.5 tag team matches, but nothing out of this world. So, I mean, honestly, this tournament is, you know, cherry pick worthy. You can find the best matches and kind of watch them. It's not, I mean, you're not going to get lost if you don't keep up with the whole tournament.
You literally, that is one of the things about about New Japan is you could stop at Power Struggle and then that's in November?
Yes.
And then pick literally right back up on January 4th and you'd be fine.
Yeah.
You'd be fine. I mean, you'll miss some good wrestling, and if you're a fan of the product, which I'm sure you are because you're listening to this podcast, you'll see good wrestling matches, but for storyline, it's minimal. It's minimal. You don't have to, but we're marks for this stuff. We love it, and we're gonna cover it. So I mean, that's what we're doing.
And another thing about the World Tag League is it's kind of weird to watch because it's first there's no announcers for any of the matches except the day one show was a full
big shows.
Was a full show. There's no announcers. It's a one single cam.
Is it single cam for every show?
Yes, pretty much everything I've seen so far has all been single cam.
I like the single cam.
Yeah.
We talk about how New Japan has a sport presentation style, but when I watch the single cam shots, even though most sports aren't shot that way, there's something about that presentation that, I don't know, for me it's weird. It's just like, this is like a real sport all of a sudden, It doesn't have the glitz and glamour of like the 6 camera crew setup that like a North American, or even New Japan has a great camera production team, but it's kind of different. I kind of enjoy it sometimes, just seeing that single cam.
It's definitely a new. I didn't bother me. I mean, it's definitely, you have to get used to it. But
if you've ever watched World of Sport, it's very reminiscent of World of Sport in the 70s and 80s. Maybe that's why I like it. Yeah. I don't know.
And as somebody who's used to watching WWE, it's definitely going to be like a big change for them. And they're definitely smaller, more intimate crowds, but it's still cool. So pretty much give you a little history of exactly what the World Tag League is. It's a round-robin tag team tournament, and it's a spin-off of the G1 Climax, which is a singles round-robin tournament that happens every summer.
Well, you can go further back, Jeremy. Just recently, actually, they were talking about it. So, giving you a brief history lesson, not you, but like the fans.
Yeah, go ahead, the historian.
Brief history lesson, when Rikidozan and Kimura first started, bringing professional wrestling to Japan in the, post World War II era, most of their big shows were tag teams. Wrestling in New Japan was always headlined and main evented by tag teams. You still see that today, yes, for the big shows, there are singles titles runs, but for most of the minor shows and most of the, the road to shows and things like that, you're going to see tag teams headline, because that is what drew the crowds, and it carried in the tradition. Rikidozan started that, and it carried through to All Japan and New Japan after JWA closed in the 70s. This is it's a round robin spin-off of I forget what they had in JWA, but they also had a tag league that was very, very similar. And in All Japan, they had the same tournament, basically, and New Japan has the same tournament. So, tournaments are, because the sport presentation, are a huge deal. New Japan has not always been the most tag team oriented promotion per se, and that still carries through today. I mean, they have a lot of tag teams. They have great tag team matches.
But it's just not an emphasis of their programming, and
exactly.
Usually a lot doesn't get booked into the tag division. It's almost like the WWE Cruiserweight division.
To some extent, except for heavyweights tend to still get a heavier emphasis on the card. So even though the heavyweight tag division's been somewhat abysmal this year, as it has been for several years, for some reason they're still always at the top middle of the card,
right? Even
though there's better openers and better matches beneath them,
right? And so the whole thing of the tag league, the winning team gets a title shot at the IWGP tag titles at Wrestle Kingdom, as long as it's not the champion, because the tag champions are in the tournament. So if the tag champions win the tournament, I guess there'll be some other way to determine the number one contender. And also how this works, it's under a point system. So you get 2 points for a win, 1 point for a draw, and of course you get 0 points if you lose. And like I mentioned earlier, it's round robin. There's 2 blocks, you get A block and B block. All the A blocks team wrestle each other, you get a winner. All the B block teams wrestle each other, you get a winner. And then the finals, A block winner and the B block winners meet to get your overall World Tag League winners.
The World Tag League, that was the name of the original tournament that they ran in JWA, which for those of you that are unfamiliar, the JWA was the original premier wrestling promotion in Japan, the Japan Pro Wrestling Alliance, essentially. Kind of like the NWA, how everything kind of stems from the NWA here in America. Everything kind of stems from JWA. New Japan and All Japan split off from JWA, and they had the world. It was called the World Tag League, and it ran from 1970 to 1972. JWA folds in 73, right after New Japan, All Japan take all the stars. But they even had in the very first World Tag League, Antonio Inoki. Actually, Inoki won the first two in 1970, 1971 on different tag teams. So I mean, he's the founder of New Japan Pro Wrestling, and he took that idea. And so did Baba, Giant Baba, who founded All Japan. They took this idea and rolled it into New Japan. So I mean, this tag league has been going on for years under different names since the 70s.
Right.
Nonstop.
I mean, at one point it was the G1 Tag League. Right. It was the Super Grade Tag League.
The Madison Square Garden Tag League.
Yeah.
Like Hogan was in it. Hanson, Andre, Dusty Rhodes, Bob Backlund. Lots of big gaijin talent over the years.
And speaking of big gaijin talent, this year's edition of the World Tag League has seen the debuts of a lot of gaijins to New Japan. One of the debuts, Chucky T. He's teaming with Trent Beretta. They are the best friends. They are a Ring of Honor tag team, also a PWG tag team. You have Jeff Cobb. Some of you might know as Matanza from Lucha Underground. He's teaming up with Michael Elgin.
That's like the biggest little guy tag team ever.
They're
awesome.
Short and wide, but they are awesome. And then also there is Sammy Callahan, who's teaming with Juice Robinson, who you might know as CJ Parker from NXT. They are the team of Death Juice.
That's a weird. It's such a weird team.
A very weird team. So let's talk about a couple of these guys, starting with Chucky T. We actually got to see him in action at the Ring of Honor tapings in Lakeland. Him and Beretta and Rocky Romero took on the Elite, Kenny Omega, and the Young Bucks. What do you think about Chucky T?
I got to be honest with you. So I follow New Japan, but Ring of Honor, I don't follow it as much as I probably should. I knew obviously I knew Trent Beretta and Rocky Romero broke up this past year and had, they were doing different things within Chaos. I didn't know about this Best Friends tag team until we went to see them. They were awesome. And he's called Chucky T now, but that's Chuck Taylor, right?
Right, Chuck Taylor, yep.
I don't really think I've seen too much of Chuck Taylor, to be honest with you. I knew he was in Chikara, and he was like a head trainer at Wrestle Factory, or I think that's what it's called. I've heard the name over the years, but, I mean, what do you know about Chuck Taylor? Because I don't know that much.
Honestly, I don't know that much about him. I mean, I've heard about him, PWG, and all the awesome matches he has in PWG, and like you said, like I've heard his name throughout the years, but I've never really seen anything solid. He recently just came to Ring of Honor, and I watch Ring of Honor kind of on and off. So
what's the deal with the best friends gimmick? Are they like, is it supposed to be that in real life they're actually best friends?
Yeah, I think with the whole gimmick, I think like they knew each other like from childhood or something like that, and so now they're kind of running this whole best friend gimmicks. They hold each other's hands. One of their big spots in the match is they do a hug.
I loved how when we went to see them in Lakeland, they kept hugging, but Rocky Romero was like the outside friend, like basically Trent Beretta's like, I got my best friend over here and I got my best friend over here, but the two best friends don't like each other,
right?
And I really dig that gimmick. And when they finally, the moment that we saw the 6-man tag match, and if you're listening to this right now, I don't know when it's going to air, but we watched a 6-man tag in Lakeland with those three guys against the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega. Awesome match. It's going to air on free TV. What are they running on Comet still?
Yeah. Also, I mean, probably the easiest way to watch it, you go to online, ROHWrestling.com. They have the on-demand section, or you can download the Fight TV app. That's FITE, Fight TV app. They air Ring of Honor every Monday at 7, right before Raw comes on.
I think they just got a new TV deal, like online or something like that.
Yeah, and Ring of Honor did announce that they are planning to launch their own streaming service in 2018. So be on the lookout for that. So Chucky T and the whole best friend thing with Beretta is definitely funny. Their first match in the World Tag League, you can definitely tell the crowd, obviously they weren't familiar with the whole whole best friend things with them hugging and holding hands. But as they work throughout the tournament, you can see the crowd.
They start to get it.
Yeah, they're starting to understand the whole best friends gimmick. And I think they are a great addition to the heavyweight tag team scene. And I think if New Japan...
They need them.
Yes, if New Japan can... Because Beretta is already a signed New Japan guy. If they go ahead and sign Chucky T and make the best friends a full-time heavyweight tag team, that would be a great thing to lift that tag division up.
Well, a couple things. One, when we saw them, and the one spot for the match that I really popped for was when Rocky Romero, Chucky T, and Trent Beretta finally all decided to hug together.
Yeah, the big hug.
The big hug as a group, because all throughout the match, they kept teasing that they're going to do the hug, but they kept excluding Rocky Romero. So funny.
Yeah.
But for me, I'd never seen those guys work together. I know Trent Beretta, but I got the gimmick right away just because they're good at telling stories.
Right.
This past year, when Trent Beretta... when they lost the match, Roppongi Vice lost that match to the Young Bucks at the G1 special, and they announced he was going to go off as an own. I was like, that's great. This guy's going to be awesome in the heavyweight division, but they're so loaded with talent. He's awesome. And he's one of the misused guys from WWE that's thriving on the indies. But is there really a place for him in the upper mid card? Yes, but in the main event scene, maybe if they got behind him. But right now, probably not.
Yeah, I think he'd be better off in the best friends tag team and working that heavyweight tag division. They're actually the number one contenders for the Ring of Honor tag titles. We're going to talk about Final Battle a little bit later. They're going to be facing the Machine Guns at Final Battle, but we'll talk about that later.
As much as they've hot-shotted the titles in recent years and kind of made them not that important, they're still prestige in the eyes of the Japanese fans, and there's still credibility when you hold that belt. And so, because they go off a ranking system. So the fact that Trent Beretta is in a heavyweight tag team and not a junior tag team, it helps him bridge that gap between finding his footing. And the fact of the matter is, this past year has been pretty abysmal when it comes to heavyweight. And I mean, it's been that way for several years. Right. So to bring in a guy like Chuck T and Trent Beretta, these guys are really athletic.
They can work their ass off.
They freaking work. And they can get good matches out of pretty much any of those heavyweight guys. And they're small enough to where they're big enough to be heavyweights, but they're small enough to let these guys get heat off them while they're working. And they can play cowardly heels too. So, I mean, it's a really good spot for Trent Beretta if they do in fact keep Chuck Taylor. I don't know if they are or not, but they should.
Yeah, and I'm sure we'll find out eventually who's going to get signed after this tournament concludes. And then we mentioned Jeff Cobb. He's teaming with Michael Elgin.
What a freaking team, dude.
Jeff Cobb, he's definitely an indie darling. He's been having amazing matches with guys like Keith Lee and Matt Riddle.
I saw him have a good match last year at Mania during Rev Pro. He lost to Martin Stone. That was the first time I saw him live. Obviously, he's the Monster Montenzo Cueto, who it was funny when he debuted on that show. We got built up for years, this monster, and then this short guy comes out, and they've been building it like he was Big Show size or something, and you're like, what? Or like Great Khali, and he comes out, and you're like, what is this? And then when he starts destroying dudes, he's so believable.
Yeah, because I mean, he might be short, but he is wide. He is jacked. He's a former Olympian. He has those amazing suplexes.
He's a suplex machine, dude.
And he has that freaky Cesaro strength.
He might be stronger than Cesaro, bro.
Yeah, and then you put him in a team with Michael Elgin, who's pretty much almost the same exact body build. I think Cobb might be a little bit bigger.
I don't know. I think Elgin's a little taller.
Yeah, but Elgin might be a little bit taller, but I think Cobb's a little bit wider. And their tag matches have been great so far. Just seeing Cobb just throwing people around, and the Japan crowd is really taking a liking to Cobb because he's a big dude as far as being strong, and he's just tossing everybody around with suplexes.
I mean, they're right there in that whole there's this tradition in Japan of these gaijin because of the sport centric nature of Japanese wrestling, and of course there's other types of Japanese wrestling, but on the big leagues it's so sports centered. You have this history of big athletic guys like Big Van Vader, Stan Hansen, Dr. Death, Steve Williams,
Which Dr. Death reminds me a lot. Michael Elgin reminds me a lot of Dr. Death, Steve Williams.
Yeah, Scott Norton. I'm trying to think of the one guy who's in the Rocks family who was in UWF, who was always suplexing everybody. I forget his name. He always wore the red singlet. Dang it, I forgot. But I'll find out. But but these guys would go over there and they would present themselves for the most part like sports centered, giant American, dudes who could suplex and lariat and powerbomb the crap out of you.
Right.
And that's what when Elgin first came in the G1, I was like, he's perfectly made for New Japan. Cobb's the same way.
Yeah, and I think that's another guy. Whether they sign him to be in a tag team or sign him to be singles, I think Jeff Cobb can have a great run in New Japan Wrestling. They don't seem to have a really high spot for Michael Elgin right now. So why not sticking with Cobb for the rest of the year and, like we said, help that heavyweight tag division out and run Cobb and Elgin as a full-time tag team. I think that would definitely create some fresh matchups for that heavyweight tag division and bring some intrigue to it.
Gary Albright.
Oh, yes.
Gary Albright, that's who that was. Oh, Gary Albright was freaking. You ever seen him wrestle?
Yes, I have. Yeah.
He's awesome.
Yeah, he was.
And he was actually a legit shooter. He could really fight and really wrestle. He's awesome. But yeah, that tag team is so intriguing to me. Now, the big thing here that we've been talking about is, what's going to happen at Wrestle Kingdom. There was many fans who were like, you got these two awesome gaijin coming in, this gimmick. We don't have a place for Michael Elgin on the main card yet, and he's one of the top stars. Could he be in that tag lineup for Wrestle Kingdom? And from what I'm hearing, and there's been a lot of speculation, as of yet, Jeff Cobb is not signed to New Japan, and Jeff Cobb is not booked for Wrestle Kingdom in any capacity.
Which, that could change.
It could change, but
it's not likely.
They're like tournament favorites, though. Mm-hmm. A lot of fans want to see them be one of the main guys that either win the tournament or play a part in that. And so far, they're doing well in the tournament. They haven't lost yet, right?
Yes, they have. Of right, yeah. Because as of this recording, in the B block standings, they only have 4 points.
Gotcha. And the B block is so much better than the A block.
Yeah, the B block is stacked. You have War Machine, Killer Elite Squad, The Best Friends, Gorillas of Destiny, like we mentioned, Cobb and Elgin, and then there's Ishii and Yano and Finley and Kitamura and Henare and Togi Makabe.
So what? That's like the Raw show, and then the other one's the SmackDown show? Pretty
much. The A block, you have Suzuki and Iizuka, which is just a rough team.
I'm sad to say that because Suzuki's one of my favorite guys,
right?
And they are awful.
Out of all the people in Suzuki Gun, they could have picked anybody else to be.
They should have put him in there with Desperado.
Right. Anybody could have been.
Taka.
Seriously, yeah. But they chose Iizuka, and those matches have been.
They basically took the 3 top teams of this past year in the heavyweight division. They took Killer Elite Squad, War Machine, and GOD, who they've all been feuding, and they put them in the same block.
Yeah, I would have put one of those teams in the A block. They desperately needed it.
Well, it's very confusing because what they do many times on these shows, and they did this last year, GOD ended up running on the opposite end, and in the finals, they ended up beating the tag champions. Isn't that how it went? I'll have to look again.
I thought Makabe.
Yeah, they went up against Makabe and Hanma. Oh, right. They lost to Makabe and Hanma. Lost. That's right. But the reason I remember it, why I'm thinking of they won was because they won the spiritual award where they had a great match and they sucked all year. GOD's so much better now than they were a year ago.
Yeah, definitely.
But yeah, but the fact of the matter was Makabe and Hanma, I think. Didn't GOD beat the champions in the tournament, and that's why they ended up in the triple threat at Wrestle Kingdom?
Yes, I believe so.
So many times if you beat the champions in the tournament, you have a future. Even if you don't win the tournament, you have a title shot down the road. But if you win the tournament, you get a title shot at Wrestle Kingdom. Many times they'll book last year they did it as a multi-man match.
Yeah. And then another one of the guys, the last one that we should talk about is Sami Callihan. He's also in the A block, teaming with Juice Robinson. They call themselves the Death Juice. Both of these guys, former NXT stars. Juice Robinson was CJ Parker. Sami Callihan was Solomon Crow.
I always forget his name was Solomon Crow. I just think of him as Sami Callihan.
Yeah, both of these guys misused by NXT. Well, for me, I'm not really a big Sami Callihan fan. I don't know what it is. I've been watching him in Ring of Honor and the Indies, and I saw his run in NXT, and I just don't get it. I've never really bought into him, and I've never really been into his matches. And then the stuff he's doing now here in Japan, has this new gimmick where he kisses his opponents on the lips and he's spitting on people. It's really weird.
That has been weird. I will say I liked his gimmick a lot in Lucha Underground. He had some awesome tag matches last year in Evolve. I'm not going to sit here and say I'm an expert on Sami Callihan. I haven't seen everything he's done. I saw him in NXT. I thought his promo work right out the gate was really good. I thought he was going to be a star, and then nothing happened with that. I did see him wrestle last year at Rev Pro at WrestleMania weekend. I actually saw him wrestle the young boy Jay White.
You mean Switchblade?
Switchblade.
Jay White.
I saw Jay White beat that man with the Boston Crab, which is pretty dope. But he's definitely he's a good worker. He's got a cool character. Now, I gotta admit to you guys, at this current time, I promise you, by the time we finish recording the follow-up episode that will drop after the finals, I will have seen all the matches that I want to see from this tournament. I can't tell you that I'm going to watch everything, but I will have watched something from everybody, and I'll watch the stuff that is highly recommended and, what I think is interesting. I don't think very many people can actually watch the entire tournament if we're just being realistic. With that being said, I haven't seen the gimmick, but I've heard about him kissing Kojima.
Yeah, he's kissed Kojima and pretty much all his opponents, even his partner Juice, he'll kiss, and then it's a lot of spitting on his opponents too.
I saw a really funny interview after that night where Tenzan was like, "Why did he kiss Kojima?" He said, "Even I haven't kissed Kojima." And then I think he was making a joke, but it's always hard to tell because it's in Japanese. He acted like he was crying. He's like, "He stole Kojima from me." So those are the three, foreign stars that have been brought in. Talking more about these blocks, I do think it's interesting because, are the champions going to go... The champions right now are Killer Elite Squad, right?
Right, and that's the team of Davey Boy Smith Jr., that's the son of the British Bulldog, and Lance Archer. You might remember Lance Archer. He was a pretty big star in TNA. He teamed up with Kid Cash, and then he had a small run in WWE ECW as Vance Archer.
Oh, that's right, Vance Archer. They've been on Ring of Honor television. I've seen them wrestle there. They've been killing it on the indies. They've killed it overseas, especially. They were big stars in Noah. I think did they wrestle in All Japan? I'm pretty sure Killer Elite Squad was there. I think so.
These guys have great size. I'm surprised. This is a team I think Vince McMahon would sign up in a heartbeat if he saw them.
He would have to watch Japanese wrestling first.
Right. I'm sure somebody would just show him a picture and he'll be like, "God damn, pal. Sign that Bulldog Jr. and Lance guy."
Oh, man. But, so I'm wondering, are they going to go undefeated and then lose in the finals, which they've done in the past? But, all the best teams that you would want to see them wrestle at Wrestle Kingdom are in the same block as them.
Right. Which makes me think they're probably... I don't know how they're going to do it, but maybe they end up doing some kind of multi-man tag match.
Well, for years they did that with the juniors.
Right.
They did the junior tag and multi-mans, and then they broke that this past year with the Young Bucks.
Yeah, they're challenging Roppongi 3K.
Is that what they're doing?
Yes.
That's the official match?
Yeah.
So they're not doing a multi-man?
No, it's Young Bucks versus Roppongi 3K.
Well, we got to get multiple guys on this card right now because and hats off to New Japan right now for having this card so fully booked almost already. Does it take away some of the intrigue a little bit? Yes. But I mean, how many years have we watched WWE and been like a month, 3 weeks away, and we still don't know some of the matches, you know, that are going to happen at WrestleMania?
Right. It's crazy.
It's crazy. And like we were in early November. We were in August. We already knew the main event. We knew the majority of the big matches that were going to happen. And they were well booked too. No one's I haven't heard anyone on any message boards being like complaining about the booking of this show.
Yeah, I have a feeling that Killer Elite Squad's going to win the tournament, and then they're going to do a multi-man match at Wrestle Kingdom. Is my guess right now.
They did a really cool interview. It's on New Japan, their website right now. You can also catch it online with Sonata and Evil. And they were in full character gimmick mode while they were talking. And, well, I think they kind of just do that over in Japan anyways. Like, they don't really break character.
They don't expose the business.
And they were, like, talking about who they don't want to face in the tournament. And they came straight out and said they really didn't want to face Davey Boy and Lance Archer. And they kind of said because they were too greasy.
Yeah, Sonata said that Davey Boy Smith Jr. looks like he's just super oily, and he'll be slipping around trying to do moves to him.
That kind of brings me back to like grease. I don't know if you ever heard about grease skate in the UFC.
No.
BJ Penn when he fought GSP, and they said that they actually changed the rules in the UFC because they used to put the Vaseline on the guy's face. Yeah. And apparently GSP wiped it off and put it on his body because they put excess. And so BJ said he couldn't beat him because he was too slippery, basically.
So that's what Sonata's saying. Yeah, Sonata's on that Davey Boy is too slippery.
But I mean that the B block is awesome. Plus, like looking at some of the other teams just right off the bat, like Dave Finlay is due for a push, man. That's one of those guys that I thought was going to break out this year and really didn't.
Yeah, they chose Jay White over Dave Finlay for the push there, because both of those guys are young lions and were kind of in the same class, and they often team together on shows. But they sent Jay White on an excursion to Ring of Honor, and now he's back with the Switchblade character.
They should send Davey to like ICW or like Progress.
Right.
Maybe send him back to Europe because of his dad and let him just do that. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. If
they're not going to push the guy. Yeah,
he definitely needs an excursion somewhere and then come back with something different. And he's teaming up with Kitamura, who's a young lion.
Who's, like, I would say, would you agree is, like, the standout of that class right now?
Yes.
I think he's the head trainer, too, like the senpai.
Yeah, between him and Kawato, those guys are the two top young lions, and we're going to explain to you guys all about what a young lion is a little bit later when we talk about the Young Lions Cup. But, yeah, Kitamura, he's pretty much... size-wise, like a Japanese Brock Lesnar. This guy is huge.
You know what? I am so sorry because I still sometimes get some of these guys confused. Kitamura is definitely not the standout. It's definitely Kawato. Kawato's the senpai.
I think Kitamura has been a standout too, and what I've seen from his look. I mean, but even like in some of his matches, which we'll talk about a little bit later in the Young Lions Cup. I mean, he's done a lot of selling, and
yeah, he sells a lot, and he sells pretty good. Some of his offense is very it's not fluid yet. You know what I mean?
Right.
You can tell there's a huge difference because he didn't start till this year, even though he was in the same class as like Oka and some of those guys. But he started a year later, and there's a huge difference because he hasn't been wrestling the way that they have. I think he'll be good in time, but he is older. So I think they're wanting to pull the trigger
on
with
him. Yeah,
he's got a great look, but I confused him
with Kawato.
Because Kawato's the man.
Yeah, we'll talk about those guys a little bit later in the Young Lions Cup. Let's see some other teams in here in the A Block, another kind of weird thing they did, they put 2 Bullet Club teams in the A Block. You have the team of Hangman Page and Yujiro Takahashi, the Tokyo Pimp, and then also the team of Bad Luck Fale and Chase Owens. Those are the 2 Bullet Club teams in the A Block, and they had to face off against each other.
I did see that match, actually. It's the only match I saw. I don't know why. It was on like Twitter, and I just checked it out. What I liked about it was that when the match started, so we get this in the G1 all the time when these guys start out like where, like, oh, you lay down, and then, oh, I'm going to pin you, and then the other guy is like, no, I'm not going to, and then he kicks out. And you didn't really get that with this match. They kind of actually wrestled.
Right. Well, at first, they were kind of just too sweeting each other and just kind of hugging it out and kind of going slow. But then as the match picked up, then they started kind of wrestling each other and trying to get the one up on each other. And so it's in a way kind of a comedy match. And Bad Luck Fale and Chase Owens ended up winning that match. Chase Owens stole the pin off of Hangman Page of a schoolboy, which caused a little argument at the end of the match, but ultimately they all too sweeted each other. Well, Hangman Page was trying to get them to do the one sweet since, they got the cease and desist, and there was a backstage segment, one of the backstage interviews. Hangman Page was trying to explain to them that they got a cease and desist and they can't do the 2 sweet anymore. They should be doing the 1 sweet, but all those guys were like, no, we want to do 2 sweets.
Well, because some of them are real Bullet Club members, and some of them, to me now, it's like NWO Red and Black and NWO Black and White.
Right.
It's sort of like that a little bit. Like, to me, and maybe it's just me, but the guys in Japan are the real Bullet Club members. Everyone else is just kind of an extension.
Well, I mean, technically, yes, because the Bullet Club is owned by New Japan and they choose who goes in the Bullet Club. But as far as a popularity level, I mean, guys like Bad Luck Fale, Chase Owens, and Takahashi, even the Guerrillas of Destiny, they're
come on, Tamatanga. I saw a guy dressed up like Tamatanga in Lakeland.
Yeah, we did, but I'm saying like they kind of get forgotten because they're not on Ring of Honor and they're not on Being the Elite. Well, so they're the Bullet Club members that are not
if
seen.
They want notoriety, all they got to do is answer my emails that I've been sending out to them so they can come on this show, the Ace of Podcasts, get worldwide exposure, and we're going to get them over. That's what we're here to do.
You hear that, guys? You Bullet Club members that are not on Being the Elite, you come on Keeping It Strong Style, and we'll get you over.
Can you imagine like trying to have a interview with Tamatanga?
That would be awesome.
I think I'd be like pretty like, I don't know, intimidated by that guy.
Yeah.
His promo this last year at like the G1 and the G1 like conference, and then during the G1 match he had with Omega
was intense.
Yeah. So looking at some of these teams in the A block, I mean, you got Nakanishi and Nagata together, and I love Nagata, and Nakanishi's like done a lot for the sport, but I mean, that third generation team right there, that's tough. They've only got 1 win anyways.
Yeah.
You got Tenzan and you got Tenkozi, which they held the titles this year, but it's a nostalgia act almost at this point.
Right. But even though it's a nostalgia act, they are still pretty over. The crowd
they can still go.
Knows all their spots.
Well, Kojima can still go.
Yeah.
Evil and Sonata is an awesome tag team. I'm assuming they're probably the A block favorites still, right?
Yes, and as of this recording, I mean, there's a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5-way tie right now for first place. So we'll see what happens. I'm sure they will be a favorite. I mean, they
lost to Juice and Callahan, and they lost to Suzuki and Iizuka.
Okay.
So going forward, they've got Tenkoji and Goto and Yoshihashi, which that's a Chaos team. I would assume that they're gonna fit. I think they're gonna beat both those teams.
Yeah, I mean,
finish with 10 points.
Yeah, and that's another team. Goto and Yoshihashi. I mean, like we talked about Yoshihashi in our debut episode, and he's just missing something. And He's teamed up with Goto, which
I love Goto.
Sometimes I've heard Goto be compared to Dolph Ziggler in the fact that they're both really great wrestlers. They have some popularity, but there just seems to be something missing to get them in as a main eventer, as a world champion, main eventing big shows.
Well, the big difference there, though, is Ziggler's held a world title, and Goto never has.
Right.
But he's challenged many, many times unsuccessfully, and it's one of the things that actually adds prestige to that belt. The fact that a guy like Goto, who, like a Ziggler, they gave Ziggler, like, some title runs just because in the WWE, everyone gets a title run. In New Japan, you could be Goto, who maybe one day, maybe not now, but one day when it's all said and done, might wind up with a Hall of Fame career and never hold that belt.
Right.
So that's pretty crazy. But yeah, he's a fantastic worker. Chaos has kind of been in shambles over the last few years. It looks like this year they were more cohesive. They try to bring some more cohesiveness to them. But I mean, no one realistically is expecting Goto and
Yoshihashi.
I mean, maybe they would. They got to get him on the card somehow. Well, he's probably gonna be in the never scene at Tokyo Dome, so I don't assume they're gonna do much better in the tournament going forward.
Yeah. Another Chaos team that's in the B block, Ishii and Toru Yano. And Toru Yano can kind of be described almost like a Santino Marella kind of New Japan. He's a comedy wrestler. He looks for a lot of low blows. He pulls off the turnbuckle pads.
You ever seen when he was a shooter?
No, I have not. I heard he was, but I have not seen that. I've only seen the comedy version of Yano, and I find it absolutely hilarious.
It's hilarious.
Him and Kenny Omega had a hilarious match in the G1 this summer that a lot of New Japan purists were not happy about, but I thought it was very entertaining.
It's pro wrestling, man.
Right.
It's the G1. You come on.
And they're another interesting team because you got Ishii, who is, the Stone Pitbull, hard-hitting guy. We call him the
best bad body wrestler in the industry.
I mean, he just destroys people in the ring. And then you have this goofball, Toru Yano, who's trying to, win with a schoolboy or poking you in the eye or low blowing you.
Well, they didn't win the G1 or the tag tournaments last year, but they ended up in there anyways because they stole the trophies.
Yes, Yano was stealing his trophies.
And then they stole the tag titles, and then they won at Wrestle Kingdom last year. Which I think most of that is based on the fact that Ishii is the Iron Man of New Japan. He's the unsung hero of New Japan. He's not one of the top 4 guys, but based on the fact that he's maybe better than... I mean, I'm saying this like... I'm not... you can shoot me all you want. He might be the best wrestler in the world right now.
Right.
Okay, and I mean, that's high praise. He's just as good as Omega or Okada or Naito right now. And the fact that you got that guy who can go and he puts his body on the line, and then you got Yano, who is one of the most popular. He sells so much merchandise in Japan. He's one of the biggest stars they have over there, believe it or not, because his comedy act is so over. So that's why they won the tag titles. Plus to kind of bolster, the strength of Chaos as a faction going out of G1 last year, or I'm sorry, out of Wrestle Kingdom. Sorry, excuse me.
So is there anything else we should be covering on the World Tag League?
So as we sit right now in the B block, Hanson, and we didn't even talk about
War Machine. Yeah, how can we forget about those guys?
We didn't really talk about Guerrillas of Destiny either.
Yeah. All right, let's talk about those two teams, and they've actually been feuding a lot this year.
All year long. They've wrestled so many times this year. They've been pretty good matches, though.
Yeah, we got to see Hanson at the Ring of Honor tape, and for some reason Raymond Rowe was not there.
Was he not there?
No, because Hanson got jumped by Daniels and Kazarian, and nobody came to save him. And then he was in that weird the mixed match 8-man tag thing they did.
Oh yeah, that was a good match.
Yeah, that was a good match. So yeah, War Machine, they're a Ring of Honor tag team.
They've been tag team champions. They're the IWGP champions right now. They're another one of those big gaijin.
No, Killer Elite Squad are the champions right now.
Oh yeah. They're not the champions. I'm sorry.
They were the
champions.
Yeah.
They just recently lost the titles to Killer Elite Squad, but they were the champions for a majority of the
this year. Yeah.
And they're another one of those teams that are very similar. Their wrestling style is not similar to Elgin and Cobb, but I mean they're huge.
They're huge. They're two huge Viking-looking guys.
And in Japan, that's going to get over.
Hansen, the stuff he does for his size is crazy. He's out there, doing dives and flips and drop downs and leapfrogs. This guy, he's 6'3", 293 pounds. And
he's awesome.
He's awesome. He's out here flipping around like he's Seth Rollins, diving or like he's Ricochet, diving and flipping all over the place.
Like he's Luke Harper. Harper.
Yeah. He does. Brody Lee.
Brody Lee.
He does suicide dives. Hansen is crazy. I like Rowe too. He has a lot of hard hitting strikes, and they're been one of the few things that have been salvaging the heavyweight tag division
this past year.
Yeah,
because they go out there and they put their work boots on. They work hard every time.
And I think they kind of remind me a little bit of Legion of Doom a little bit.
Yeah, the Road Warriors.
Yeah.
Except for, they're and we've got other members of the Social Suplex Network who are adamant that the Road Warriors suck. I am vehemently opposed to that, because in my book, the Road Warriors are the greatest tag team that.
Dude, when I was a kid, I loved the freaking Road Warriors.
The Road Warriors are awesome. The Road Warriors in Japan were awesome. In my book, if we had to compare some of these teams to some of the teams of yesteryear, Hanson and Rowe War Machine is going to be more similar to a Road Warriors, whereas Elgin and Cobb are going to be more similar to like a Steiner Brothers combo in this tournament.
Yeah, this is great analogies. And then let's talk about Gorillas of Destiny. It's Tama Tonga and Tangaloa. They are brothers, and they are the sons of Haku.
Of Ming.
Yes.
Yeah, King Haku. The Tonga Kid. Was he the Tonga Kid? I don't know.
I'm not 100%. I can't guess on that.
So it's a mixed bag with them. You have the nights where they're on and they're good, they're great, and then you have the nights where they are just awful.
Right. Tangaloa, he was in NXT as Camacho.
You may remember him as Camacho.
He's gotten a lot better since those days, and Tama Tonga's also gotten a lot better since his early days in New Japan.
He was good in the G1 this year.
Yeah, he was really good in the G1.
He was really good. You know what? Oh man, we've got the New Japan Awards dropping. We might need to add him to Most Improved of the Year.
Oh yeah, we do. Those awards, we're going to be dropping them at the end of this week, and we're also going to be releasing a bonus show. Well,
by the time that this show airs, it's already going to be out.
Well, the survey will be out. The bonus show will drop a little bit after this, a couple days after this show. So we'll talk a little bit more about those year-end awards. But yeah, Tama Tonga's definitely improved.
They were the champions at a certain point this year as well, right?
Yes.
And they're one of the highlight teams of the Bullet Club. They're kind of like the heavyweight tag team as opposed to the Young Bucks being the junior tag team. And they're good. They're not always good, but when they're good, they're really good. They're one of the better tag teams in the world right now. At the end of the year, it's going to come down to their names are right up there with War Machine as being one of the best tag teams of the year for New Japan. They're going to be one of the candidates that I assume are going to get lots of votes.
Right. War Machine, Gorillas of Destiny, and Killer Elite Squad are pretty much the three teams that have kind of been the backbone of the New Japan heavyweight tag division this year. And the titles have kind of rotated between those three teams. And
so War Machine got a win over Killer Elite Squad during this tournament. So are we? It was probably already safe to assume that they were going to end up in the at Wrestle Kingdom with them, but is that the route that they're going to go? Are they at this point? It almost feels like they're going to end up doing a 4-way again. Like,
yeah, that's what I feel like. Killer Elite Squad is going to end up winning this thing, and then they're going to do a 4-way with Killer Elite Squad, War Machine, Guerrillas of Destiny.
You think Killer Elite Squad's winning?
Yeah, I think Killer Elite Squad's winning.
See, I don't. I think Evil and Sonata are going to win.
Okay.
I don't know. Just looking at New Japan booking in general, it seems like someone from the A block has to win, unless you think they're doing a triple threat.
They could do another triple threat. I mean, they've just got done doing a triple threat program. I mean, Evil and Sonata could win also, and that gets the. But I mean, this is supposed to be for the number 1 contendership, and somehow they have to get to a multi-man match.
Well, it's pretty easy. All they got to do at this point, Killer Elite Squad. What do they have left? They got Best Friends, Hanari and Makabe, and they've got God. I could easily see God going over. Mm-hmm. So that I mean, do you want your tag team champions to take 3 losses in the tournament though? That's a lot.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I don't know if that's realistic, but I mean, I'm not the booker. I'm not Gato.
Yeah.
I don't know what's realistically going to happen, but is it the craziest thing in the world to think that maybe the Guerrillas they got to do something at Wrestle Kingdom?
Yeah, they do. So
I mean, could Killer Elite Squad take 3 losses and then let's face it too. Archer and Bulldog are not New Japan guys, even though they're there and they're signed. These are guys, Suzuki Gun guys, and Suzuki Gun guys are not necessarily strictly New Japan. They came over from Noah. That's where they made the majority of their name and all that notoriety. I do see them as being the type of tag team that has been brought in to elevate the New Japan tag teams.
Yeah, definitely.
To take the falls to these guys, that they can, because they're an established team with a big name, big track record, former titleists, and I think that they're there to add credibility to the tag division by taking the losses.
Right. I think in 2018, definitely keep going with War Machine, Killer Elite Squad, and Guerrillas of Destiny, but they need to sign Best Friends. They need to sign Cobb and Elgin.
See, and I somewhat disagree with you to that point, Jeremy. I agree with, yes, these are all the tag teams you named are awesome, but realistic, and yeah, I think in America, if they're going to do this U.S. expansion, those are all great guys to focus on, but in Japan, what really strong tag teams do they have for their product? You know that New Japan always likes to focus on building their homegrown talent.
Right.
And everyone that we just listed
are all Gaijin
teams. I do think that at some point they're going to need to boost one of these tag teams that are Japanese born and bred and bring them up. They got to, because they don't have that right now. They haven't for a while.
So it'll be interesting to see, what develops.
I think Tenkoji was the last really dominant Japanese tag team in the heavyweight division, really, if you think about it.
Yeah, probably.
They had an awesome run.
And looking at these blocks, there's not really a strong. Probably the strongest Japanese team is probably Tenkoji, and then maybe Evil and Sonata.
Yeah, and that's why I'm kind of leaning towards the idea that maybe they run with Evil and Sonata, because those 2 guys they're the top 2 guys in the heavyweight division underneath Naito, and are they going to do? Are they the triple? They're the triple threat.
Yeah, they're the 6-man tag champions,
though, aren't they?
Evil, Sonata, and Bushi. There's the
could do double
the
duty.
never 6-man tag champions.
They could also lose those titles
on a Road 2 show.
On the Road 2 show, because those titles are the least significant in New Japan, and then go for the tag titles. But it's just to me, it's Sonata, and Evil is one of the most improved wrestlers this year. He headlined a show against Okada, for crying out loud. He was great in the G1. Not every match was stellar, but he had that match with Okada was freaking awesome. He's one of the most improved guys, and Sonata.
Yeah, Evil's another one of those guys. We talked about excursions earlier. Evil's one of those guys who benefited from doing an excursion of Ring of Honor, and then coming back with this evil gimmick and joining Los Ingobernables de Japón, and it's really elevated him. Like you mentioned, he had the world title main event with Okada, and he's really becoming one of the standout members of LIJ.
Yeah, so I think we've pretty much... Was there anything we want to talk about this tag tournament beyond this?
I think this is about it. We'll come back next week and we'll go over the finals of the tag league, and I'm sure they'll have the match for Wrestle Kingdom 12 announced, so we'll talk about that.
We'll come back with some match recommendations too, guys, so that those of you who are not actively following it, we will tell you, hey, this is worth checking out. I'm sure there have been some. There's not going to be anything 5 stars, but there's going to be something worth checking out. And I mean, it's that time of the year, so like we talked about. So yeah.
And so there's also another tournament, a round robin tournament that's going on right now in New Japan, which is called the Young Lions Cup. Josh, kind of explain what the Young Lions Cup is and kind of the young boy system that they have.
Okay. So the Young Lions Cup is a tournament that they have done on and off in Japan, well, in New Japan specifically over the years. The first Young Lions Cup, let me take a look here. I'll have to go back, but the first Young Lions Cup was like in the 80s, I believe, and they haven't done one since about 2005. Essentially, it's been years. So
1985 was the first Young Lions Cup.
Yeah, 85, and then they did it every year until like 87. Then they picked it back up in the mid 90s until 90. So from 93, 96 it ran, and then they did it again a couple more times in the 2000s. But essentially in the past, it's been a round robin tournament, sometimes single elimination, but mostly a round robin tournament where young stars, like the stars of tomorrow, guys who have gone, not strictly, in the past it hasn't strictly been young boys or young lions, but it's majorly been made up of guys that have gone through the New Japan Tokyo system, and they haven't had any kind of real notoriety. Maybe they just... to kind of familiar you guys with what we're talking about here, if you're not familiar, New Japan has a school called the New Japan Dojo. And the guys that come and train there to become wrestlers, they go through a very strict, very regimented training system that is also kind of like a wrestling... like, when I say class, I don't mean like, what I mean is like a societal class sort of thing. So these guys are the students, essentially. When they come in, not only are they learning how to wrestle, learning the fundamentals and the basics, they also are being taught, they cook for the other wrestlers on the New Japan roster. They do their laundry. They carry their bags. They drive them around. They're responsible for, taking care of the other wrestlers. During wrestling matches, you'll see these guys in New Japan like shirts, usually like red and white, and they sit by ringside because they're there to learn and study the best wrestlers. They also will protect the crowd when fights break out and go into the crowd. They're responsible for
they're pretty much paying their dues before they can become a star.
And so some of these guys that have graduated from the class, right? So they're higher up now. They're ready to make their debuts. Usually when they come onto the scene, they all wear the exact same, nothing flashy. They wear black boots, black trunks, no knee pads. If they wear anything else, they have to get it approved. Usually there's very few guys that are allowed to do anything beyond that, and as they're always on the opening cards, or if they do tag, they'll usually tag with like a legend, like a Tanahashi or a Nagata, someone who's higher up on the card that they can really benefit from, but they always take the loss.
Right, and I think like you're mentioning about not having anything extra, I think the only one in this current crop of guys that has anything extra is Kitamura, who we talked about earlier.
He's got that mouthpiece.
Yeah, he has like a Wolverine, like a fang, like a vampire fang.
Like he's Andrei Arlovsky, basically.
Yeah. And so like you mentioned,
And their movesets, too, when they first start, they don't really have their own finishing moves to begin with. Many of them, they will just have one submission move that they're allowed to use, like many times it's a Boston Crab.
Yeah, their moveset is very basic. They pretty much, you can only do these moves in your match. Go out there and do them.
And everybody, for the most part, that is a homegrown talent that is in New Japan came up the same way. Okada came up this way. Tanahashi came up this way. Goto, Makabe, all these different guys. And they start out with this. And then what happens is, as time goes on, they're always in the opening matches. as time goes on, they will start to develop somewhat of a character. Eventually, when they get their first win, which usually takes a while, it's a big moment for them. You'll see character development. They'll add more moves. They'll add a little bit.
Wait, you mean New Japan has character development?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, they do.
Who knew?
Eventually, what they will do is once they feel like the person is ready, they will send them away from the promotion and they will do a learning excursion, whether it be in an American promotion or they'll go to Europe or they'll go to Mexico. But they will go on a period of time where they learn and develop a character.
Right. And, we've mentioned the excursions a couple times now. This has really helped a lot of guys. Like we mentioned, it helped Evil out. He did an excursion in Ring of Honor. Jay White did an excursion in Ring of Honor. Naito, he did an excursion in CMLL.
Oh, yeah. Okada went to TNA.
Yeah, oh my gosh. That was probably one of the worst excursions ever.
Well, the thing is, even if, like Sho and Yo just came back, right? And they were the Tempura Boys. And some of these guys don't get, when they go across seas, they're not like booked like superstars or anything like that. They're there to learn. So it's still a humbling experience, but they're developing a character. When they come back to New Japan, New Japan already saw the fan base that's there. They are familiar with who they were before, so it's like they saw them kind of come up, learn, graduate. They went away, so now they're wondering when are these guys going to come back. And when they come back, there's anticipation for it.
Right,
they're a new character. They're excited. It's basically like a way to. WWE will bring in someone from outside and it's this big deal, or, a company will bring someone from outside. It's a big deal. But in Japan, the guys they bring from the outside are their own guys that they just sent away. It's an ingenious, method of building anticipation for these wrestlers.
And every time they come back, it's huge. Like you mentioned, Roppongi 3K, they came back and pretty much their first match. Yeah, with their first match, they defeated Funky Future for the IWGP Junior Tag Team Champions, and then they followed that up by winning the Super Junior Tag Team Tournament
in the same year. I don't think anyone else has done that before.
Right. So these guys come back, they get the huge push. They're over. The fans really loving them.
But it's believable because they've been tagging for years across the globe, essentially. Right. So that's just to give you some background. So what happened here was in the past, New Japan runs a show called the Young Lions. What is it called? Lionsgate Project.
Yeah, Lionsgate Project.
And it kind of started out something similar in ideology to like what NXT is supposed to be, But it's a show. It's a smaller show. It's one of the smallest shows that they run annually. Usually, there's only a few hundred people there, and they basically highlight and showcase the young lion talent. And because when these guys are on the opening shows for, like, say, a Genesis or a King of Pro Wrestling, that's exposure, but they're jobbing pretty bad.
Right. And, majority of the time when they do get to wrestle on a big show, they're usually in a tag match. You really don't see them in many singles matches. If they do have a singles match, it's usually against another young lion. So you really don't get to see much of what they can do. But then these Lionsgate Project is the chance to actually get to see them in one-on-one matches.
They did like 2 or 3 of them last year, and I think Nagata it's not been confirmed, but it seems like Nagata's very heavily involved in it, and he is one of the trainers at the dojo. I think he's like maybe even hypothetically booking some of this.
Well, it says that Nagata was the one that proposed to bring back the Young Lion Cup.
Right, and it's in memorial to one of their trainers. Like this past year, they've done 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They've already done 6 Lionsgate Projects shows this year, and then the one that's going to be coming up in December will be the 7th. Did I count right? 7. It's been a long day.
Yeah.
7. So they're putting more emphasis on this Young Lions class than maybe they ever have before. And at Young Lionsgate 6. I believe it was it 6 or was it 5?
For which? For where you
for when Nagata said that they should bring back the Young Lions Cup.
It was the Lionsgate Project 7.
Okay.
That he
7.
Yeah, it was July 4th, 2017. After his match, he said that they should bring back the Young Lions Cup. So then at Lionsgate Project 8 is where the Young Lions Cup started.
So there's Kotetsu Yamamoto. He was the head trainer for New Japan's dojo, and he passed away. So the idea here is, in bringing back the Young Lion Cup, it's dedicated to the memory of the head trainer of the New Japan dojo, which these guys worked with. So it's very similar to like the Dusty Rhodes Memorial Tag Team Tournament. And the cool thing here is, if you look back at some of the winners and participants in previous years, you've got like in '86 Kiichi Yamada, who, if you're not familiar with that, that's Jushin Thunder Liger. That's the first big like notable win he ever received. Masahiro Chono, he's one of the all-time legends of New Japan. He won in '87. Satoshi Kojima, obviously we know who Kojima is. He won in 1994. Nakanishi, who's still on the roster, he won in 95. Kenzo Suzuki of WWE fame won the tournament in 2000. And the last one that they had prior to this was in 2005. And none other than Hiroki Goto won that tournament. There was I believe Yamamoto, who's also known as Yoshitatsu, was also one of the participants in that. Yujiro Takahashi,
the Tokyo Pimp.
Yeah, the Tokyo Pimp. He was in that tournament. So there have been tournaments in the past where some of the top stars have been exposed. So when you watch these young, I've heard New Japan fans even who've said, I really like, Omega, or I like Okada, but I don't like watching the young lions. They're boring. They got no character. They don't understand that when you're watching these guys, you are watching what's going to be the headliners for sure at some point of New Japan Pro Wrestling.
And what I like about the way they do the Young Lions shows and this tournament is pretty much these guys are learning to get over with a very limited skill set. So imagine how much more they can get over once they're allowed to have a gimmick and do more. If they can learn to get over wearing black trunks and only doing a Boston Crab, imagine how much more over they can get when they can get a gimmick and can do dives and flips and dragon suplexes. So that's what I really like about this. This tournament and these shows are they're filmed the same way as the Tag League has been filmed.
I like them.
The single cam shows, but these shows are, like you said, much smaller. The crowd's pretty much surrounding the ring. There's not going to be any dives, but the crowd's pretty much around the ring. And what I love about this, the crowd's into it, and the crowd actually knows the names of these young lions and are actually cheering them on.
Well, we've seen some of them on the bigger shows too.
Right.
So essentially what's going to happen here, there's 6 guys. The first 3 are named Tetsuhiro Yagi, Shota Umino, and Ren Narita. These 3 young lions are some of the younger ones who were included into this tournament. And most wrestling fans, even diehards, don't really know them because they just debuted very recently. I did see I haven't finished the tournament. So we're at this point, we're 2 matches into the tournament. I've just seen the first night. Ren Narita wrestled Hirai Kawato on the opening match. I thought he was really good.
Yeah, he was really good. Very aggressive. But, I'm definitely a big fan of Kawato. He's the standout of this.
He's the standout of this class.
But him and Narita did have a good match. Also, you had Kitamura. I think he went against.
And if you're listening, Kitamura, Katsuya Kitamura, he's the Japanese Brock Lesnar. We've talked about he's the biggest young boy.
Yeah.
Maybe ever.
Yeah, he went against Unamino. Sorry if I'm saying that wrong. And the thing I like about Kitamura, he's learning how to sell. Even though he's big, they're making him sell. In a lot of the matches, he's taking he's getting beat down a lot. But then he gets a comeback, and he pretty much does all the best big man moves there are. He's hitting spears and winning matches with jackhammers. I think he's pretty awesome.
I'll tell you what, right now, he's not he isn't as big as Kitamura, and if you guys we haven't really gone into it, but Kawato essentially is like the head senpai for the Young Lions class. So he's the senior member of the Young Boys, basically. So all the other, even though he's still a young lion and a young boy himself, the rest of them look up to him, and he's in charge of some of the training duties, things like that. And he's a really flashy wrestler.
And he usually gets some good spots in big shows. Power Struggle, I want to say he was like in a 10-man tag with...
Yeah, they defeated Suzuki Gun.
Yeah.
He wrestled with Robinson and Liger, Tiger Mask.
Yeah, he wrestled like the Team Taguchi guys.
He was in the Super Junior tags this year, so he's already getting a push, and he's teamed with like Hanare, people like that. But what I was going to say is Tomoyuki Oka.
Yes, I actually watched one of his matches before I got here.
That was match of the night for that first Young Lions Project, Lions Project 8. The match that he had was awesome, and kind of looking back into Oka, he's like, this guy's got a background in judo, karate, sambo, kickboxing, pancration, jiu-jitsu, MMA. So he does it all, and you can tell in the ring by the way he moves. He reminds me of many of the strong style wrestlers that we have come to learn and love. He does remind me somewhat of like a Nagata or like a Goto or Shibata.
Yeah. So, I mean, those like Oka, Kitamura, and Kawato, they're the top 3 guys in this class. And right now in the tournament, all 3 of them have they're tied with 4 points apiece. So I think it's definitely going to come down to one of those 2 to come down to the finals.
I was going to say some of these guys are in the tag tournament, I believe. Are any of them in the tag?
Yes, Kitamura's teamed up with David Finlay.
I would have really liked personally, instead of having one of like Kitamura tagged with Dave Finlay, to have him with like a Hanare or a Kawato, just so that there could be this team that takes falls the whole time.
Right.
And we can be like, are they ever going to pull one out? Right. That would, to me, that would have been almost more exciting than putting him in a team where it's like, Dave Finlay, we're supposed to believe that they can win, but we know they're not, but that kind of sucks for Dave Finlay, and Kitamura doesn't need it. I would have rather seen him just take falls with like Kawato or Hanare or something like that.
Yeah, him and David Finlay is a really random team.
But they're a good team.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong, their matches are good, so I'm not knocking that. It's just I think David Finlay should be doing more. Definitely. At this point, everyone thought he was going to be a breakout guy, and Juice Robinson kind of got that breakout this year instead of him. With this being said, everything that's basically what's on the line here with the Young Lion Cup is it's a single block tournament. There's 6 guys, so they're each going to wrestle each other. That means there's going to be 5 matches for each guy, and it's very similar to the tag league rules we laid out with the points. And at the end of it, there's not going to be a finals the way that there is in the G1. There's just going to be whoever has the most points wins the tournament, which many tournaments in Japan run this way. However, if there's any sort of tie, they will do a tiebreaker finale. So this tournament when is it ending, Jeremy?
This tournament, isn't it ending?
It's that Lionsgate project.
December 21st at Lionsgate Project number 10. Okay.
So right now, we're at the time of this recording, we're still in the middle of the World Tag League. And so 2 of the nights have already occurred for the Young Lions Cup, which leaves us with 2 more to go before the final night. So what they're doing is the last 2 nights of the World Tag League, I believe it's the last 2 nights, they're actually going to have nights 3 and 4 of the Young Lions Cup, and then the fifth final matches that they're going to determine everything for everyone will take place at the Young Lions Project 10.
Yeah, at December 21st. Yep.
So with that being said, I assume there's no way that all 3 of the guys that are in the lead right now can have a 3-way tie, but I'm guessing that we will end up with some sort of tie, and either on that night at the Lionsgate Project, they will have a tiebreaker that evening as an impromptu final, or we are going to get some sort of maybe show opener at Wrestle Kingdom. That's my prediction, is we'll get some sort of Wrestle Kingdom opener with like I could easily see either like it being a Oka Kawato.
Yeah,
finale.
I think the best finale would be Kawato versus Oka.
But these guys are all going to have already wrestled each other at that point. We could even end up with a 3-way tie, I suppose, if instead of everyone going undefeated, if they just ended up with like 5 points each or 6 points each.
Right.
And then they all lose one match, then we could end up with like a triple threat between Kawato, Kitamura, and Oka. And that would be a really cool way to get one of these guys some notoriety coming out of the Young Lions Cup, kind of making this another, tournament that gives someone a push. That's really cool.
Yeah, so we'll definitely be keeping you guys updated on the Young Lions Cup.
So far, if you are wanting to go back and check anything out from this, I think in our coverage we've only covered Young Lions Cup number 8, or the Lions Project 8, I should say. The match of the night, Kawato versus Narita, the opening match, really good. Kitamura versus Yagi wasn't quite as good, but it was still. These were easy to watch.
Yeah, and for the Kitamura match, it's definitely for me. It's just interesting seeing the guy so big selling.
Yeah. And then the Oka Umino match that one went about 10 minutes. That was, to me, the match of the night. Really, really, really good match. Oka beat Umino with the young boy Boston Crab, which was pretty awesome.
Yeah.
And we still got to catch up on Project 9, and then as we're covering the Tag League, we'll give you guys updates on where we stand with this project as well.
And then another show that we wanted to talk about is Ring of Honor Final Battle, which will be happening Friday, December 15th. And the reason we're covering Ring of Honor is because of the partnership that they have with New Japan, and there will be a lot of New Japan guys that are wrestling on this Ring of Honor Final Battle card. Final Battle is pretty much Ring of Honor's big year-end pay-per-view that they do every year.
Let me ask you something now.
Yeah.
Because I'm on the Wikipedia page, and there's going to be a 6-man tag with Bullet Club members. Is this the official name of the 6-man tag of Nick Jackson, Matt Jackson, and Adam Page? Are they officially called the Hung Bucks?
Yes, they are the Hung Bucks.
Oh my
because if you watch Being the Elite, Adam Hangman Page has been doing this gimmick where he's Adam Hung Man Page, and they always do these funny things where he acts like he's going to talk about the size of his package when he's really talking about some other random object. And there are Hung Buck shirts, and that is their official name of their 6-man team. So
looking at this card right now, and I don't follow Ring of Honor. I'm very familiar with all these guys. I've seen a lot of their work, but looking at it right now, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of the 8 matches that are there. 7 of them now. A lot of it is Ring. People are going to say, "Oh, it's Ring of Honor talent." It's true, but 7 of them are with teams or guys that are heavily featured
in New Japan. Yeah,
some of them are signed there.
Starting with the main event of the show, it's for the ROH World Championship. You have the ROH World Champion, the American Nightmare Cody, which could be said to be the leader of the American Bullet Club, and he's taking on the number 1 contender, Dalton Castle.
I just love that Cody is always in a suit.
Yes. Oh my gosh, I've been watching Ring of Honor since we've been to that taping, and he always is coming out with the velvet suit. He has a cigar. He has the literal Ring of Honor that he wears on his finger that he makes people kiss.
What I like about it is it's like, everyone was talking about like Jinder when he had the title, how much prestige he brought to it because he wore the suits and everything, and he always carried the belt. And you always hear about how the NWA champion always presents himself like a champion. And I think like it's what Cody's doing, but in a satirical manner, because he's always hanging out with the Bullet Club, and they're dressed up in street clothes, and then he's got a 3-piece on.
Yeah, and I think it's his crowd reaction to me has also been very interesting because even though he is in the Bullet Club, the Ring of Honor diehard fans are not all of them are 100% sold.
They're starting to be though.
Yeah, they're starting to be because originally it was a mixed reaction. He is starting to get more cheers than boos, but he does do a good job being a heel because the Bullet Clubs, believe it or not, they are supposed to be heels. And so he plays that up, and there are some fans who just think he's a WWE guy that shouldn't be in Ring of Honor or New Japan. But
man, he's a risk taker, man.
He's definitely stepped his game up.
He's a risk taker, man. I my hat's off to him. I liked Cody when he was the IC champion.
I was a big fan of the dashing Cody Rhodes.
But we were in Lakeland. We actually were there live for the TV taping where they did the signing for this match, and had Dalton Castle's an awesome talent. He's one of the guys that I thought would already have gone to WWE and he'd be one of those NXT guys sitting at ringside for a special. But we saw the contract signing for this match,
yes,
and it was pretty good actually.
Yeah, we also saw, they had they did like a 8-man or a 10-man tag thing where Dalton and Cody had to draw their partners out of a bag or whatever, and they had like a bunch of random partners for their teams.
Oh, is that what the gimmick was?
Yeah.
I didn't understand the gimmick. Okay.
Yeah, so they each picked like 5 or 4 like random people out of a hat.
Did they do that while we were there, or is that just what's going to happen?
I think this was going to happen
off camera?
Yeah, on TV. They'll do like a backstage segment.
I was wondering why all those heels. It was like Survivor Series, the wild card match.
Right. And so the next matchup, we have a dream match, a non-title, the IWGP Junior Heavyweight Champion, the villain Marty Scurll versus Jay Lethal. That should be a solid match.
That has match of the night written all over it.
Yeah, that could easily be match of the night. Marty Scurll's a guy that's really making a name for himself this year with the stuff he's been doing.
Last year too.
It kind of started end of last year, and then this year he's been really hot with the stuff that he's been doing in the UK and in Ring of Honor and New Japan.
Yeah, like I think right now he's the What Culture Pro Wrestling World Champion and the IWGP Junior Heavyweight Champion.
Yeah, he won the Junior Heavyweight title at the Power Struggle event. He beat Will Ospreay, which is the running story between those two is he always beats Will Ospreay. And that was Will Ospreay's first defense of the junior title.
There's several guys in this card too that have been featured in New Japan. Jay Lethal's one of them. He hasn't, in any of the times he's been there, really connected with the New Japan crowd and I don't know if he'll be coming back in the future or not, but he is one of the guys. He hasn't connected there yet, but he's awesome.
Right. I think if he had more time, if he was there on a more regular basis, he could easily. They should
bring him in for G1, man.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, that would be amazing.
Briscoes and Bully Ray. Or the Briscoes are wrestling Bully Ray and Tommy Dreamer. We saw the angle for that match too. Yeah. Briscoes are another guys. They came over. They held the 6-man tags. Were they the IWGP Heavyweight Champions too? Yeah, they were.
Yes, they were.
They really don't connect in Japan. But they're a great team.
Which is surprising. I think that they would connect because they can at times wrestle that kind of like vicious style.
And those Japanese crowds were dead for everything that they've.
Yeah.
But that's another match that's happening. We saw the angle for that. That's supposed to be, I think that's going to end up basically being a hardcore match, essentially.
Pretty much. We've got a ROH World Tag Team title match. The champions, the Motor City Machine Guns, Alex Shelley and Chris Sabin. They're defending against the Best Friends, who we talked about earlier, Trent Beretta and Chucky T. That should be a very good match. I've always loved the Motor City Machine Guns from their TNA days.
They're awesome.
Love the Best Friends. This is going to be a high-flying back-and-forth match. I wouldn't be surprised to see the Best Friends win the titles here.
Speaking of high-flying, they've got Will Ospreay on the card, who won. No, he didn't. He did not win the Best of the Super Juniors this year, but he was a finalist.
Yeah.
He did hold the junior title this year, though.
Yes.
He beat Kushida. He's maybe outside of Ricochet the best high flyer in the world. He might still be the best high flyer in the world. He's going to be going up against Matt Taven on the card. So they got a lot of really athletic, like high flying matches going on with this card.
And of course another high flying match. You have the ROH World 6-man titles on the line. The 6-man tag champions are Adam Page and the Young Bucks. the Hung Bucks, and they are taking on the team of Flip Gordon, Dragon Lee, and Teton.
That's going to be what many wrestling fans refer to as a spot fest.
Yeah, that's going to be flips and super kicks that whole match, but it's going to be amazing. We saw Flip Gordon versus Hangman Page.
Oh, dude, Hangman Page is a high flyer. That dude's doing
the shooting star.
Presses.
Yes,
like he's Prince Puma out here.
Yeah, he does the shooting star shoulder block thing off the apron.
He's been doing that during the tag league.
Yeah,
it's crazy. I mean, let's just be very clear here. This guy should not be doing that stuff. Not because he can't do it, but because he's a heel.
He's a heel. Jim Cornette style. So yeah, flipping, flopping, super kicks is what you can expect from that match. If you don't know, Dragon Lee and Teton, I believe they're from CMLL, right?
They are. Teton is awesome. Dragon Lee, obviously. Dragon Lee is another guy who we actually almost considered him for Junior of the Year, but he wasn't in New Japan enough this year. But man, he had that awesome match with. I mean, obviously every match he's had with Takahashi.
Yeah, it's been amazing
over the last 3 years, all the from Japan to Ring of Honor to New Japan, or from CMLL.
Right.
But Dragon Lee, if you haven't seen Dragon Lee, and this is an awesome pay-per-view to catch him. Same thing with Teton. So I mean, these are 6 guys that are all high flyers. Even Hangman Page.
And like we mentioned, I was really impressed with Flip Gordon. I've never really saw him in action or really heard of him until recently. And he had an awesome match with Hangman Page at the
when
tapings.
I heard of Flip Gordon, I just thought of Flash Gordon. So I thought of like the vaudevillains, like some wrestler from the 1950s. I don't know. It just sounds, that name Flip Gordon just sounds very old school to me.
Yeah, and Flip Gordon's also featured in the Being the Elite YouTube series.
He's got to come to Japan.
Yeah.
And then we didn't cover the Addiction is also wrestling War Machine.
Yes.
Yes. And we did see the angle where they were cutting the beard off. Was it Rowe?
Hanson.
Okay, I always mix them up. But yeah, so I mean, if you know the Addiction or Bad Influence, whatever you want to call them, that's the team of Frankie Kazarian and Christopher Daniels. Christopher Daniels has been in New Japan in the past. It's been a while.
Yeah.
But
he was also a Curry Man in Japan.
Curry Man.
Another matchup they have, the ROH World TV title is going to be on the line in a 4 corners elimination match. Shane Taylor against the last real man, Silas Young, against Punishment Martinez versus the TV champ, Kenny King.
The last pay-per-view that they did, Ring of Honor, which was what was it? Before Global Wars? Is that when was it that Cody put Daniels through that flaming table?
That was at the Death Before Dishonor that happened the same weekend of TakeOver Houston Survivor Series. Okay.
Really? Because Cody wrestled Minoru Suzuki for the title on that. When did he put him through the table?
No, that was Christopher Daniels that he put through the table.
Who did I say?
Suzuki.
No, that's what I mean. Daniels, not Suzuki.
Yeah, that was at Death Before Dishonor. It wasn't a pay-per-view. It was like a house show.
Oh, he put him through a table at a house show?
Yeah.
Why did they do that?
I mean, it's going to be video on demand, but it wasn't a pay-per-view show.
Gotcha. So I've been confused this whole time. I was like, when did that happen? What pay-per-view? And
yeah, so Ring of Honor ran a couple shows in Texas that same weekend as TakeOver War Games and Survivor Series. And Cody and Christopher Daniels had a hardcore match or some kind of match where Cody put Daniels through a flaming table.
So I'll say this, I haven't followed Ring of Honor in years, and even back in the day when I was, I mean, let's not kid ourselves. I was probably 18 in 06. I was, in my teenage years in 05, 04, 03 when they were in their renaissance. But everyone, if you read the Aftermax, if you listened to Dave Meltzer, you knew that Ring of Honor was the premier indie. I mean, it was the super indie of super indies back in the day. And so there's this nostalgia of the time period when, guys like McGuinness and
Daniel
Penta,
Bryan.
Yeah, Bryan.
Cesaro, Chris Hero.
AJ Styles was there.
Samoa Joe.
Joe had, probably their best title reign.
Brody
CM Punk
Lee.
was there. So people say nowadays that it's not as good as it was then, and they're probably right. It probably is not what it was at that given time. But top to bottom, when you look at these cards and the TV that they're putting out, this is maybe the best American promotion today.
Right. And I mean, Ring of Honor is another one of these promotions. Their pay-per-views always have very solid matches. There's usually nothing below 3 stars on their pay-per-views. I'm like
reading, and you know what? The last Ring of Honor pay-per-view that I caught like in full was the pay-per-view. I forget when, like, what the name of it was, but it was when I actually bought it like a mark. I paid pay-per-view money to see Jay Briscoe versus Jay Lethal to unify the belts.
Yes.
That was an awesome pay-per-view.
I think that was a Final Battle also.
It was Final Battle. Yeah, it was. And I paid for that. I sat at my mom's house by myself. I tried to get James and Rich to come over and watch it with me, and they're like, why would we watch that? And I was like, I'm paying for it. And I was like, this is a monumental moment. Jay Lethal just unified all the belts.
Well, I'm actually thinking about ordering this pay-per-view, and we should
we gotta find a way to watch this at some point, because this is it's looking really good. I mean, the last pay-per-view they brought in Minoru Suzuki to wrestle Cody Rhodes, which is,
right.
I mean, that's awesome.
And Cody's also wrestled Sonata. I feel like there was one other New Japan guy that
he's gonna be wrestling Ibushi at the Tokyo Dome.
Yes, that's what I'm thinking about.
January. So I mean, they're adding prestige to the Ring of Honor Championship. But one thing I'm wondering is, when are we going to get a Bullet Club versus LIJ 6-man tag championship versus 6-man tag championship? Because that's got to happen at some point.
I'm sure that's got to be happening sometime in 2018.
I just want to see I don't know, what's the young boy for the Bullet Club? What's his name? He's in the tag tournament right now.
Chase Owens.
I just want to see Chase Owens walking around with like 6 title belts, like he's Ultimo Dragon, just carrying all their belts for them.
Yeah.
Man. So I think that covers like the main stuff. There was just some brief news that we wanted to just touch on while before we go here. So Omega's contract is up in January. I've read back, I think it was in November, they were asking him about what he planned to do, and from what he was saying in every single interview, he's not planning to leave New Japan. And they've got him booked for the US show next year and for the Ring of Honor show next year. So.
And he's on the Jericho cruise, I think.
Yeah, so I mean, at this point in time, there is no indication that Kenny Omega is going to be leaving New Japan. However, with that being said, last year we went through the whole lottery phase where we didn't know what he was going to do off the heels of that 6-star match that he had in the Tokyo Dome with Okada. He said that the reason he wants to stay in New Japan is wrestlers are allowed to be themselves. They're allowed to perform. He wants to take it to the next level. I think ultimately he wants to be the guy that they get behind. However, is there a possibility, and you can tell me what you think, Jeremy, is there a possibility at any point that if they don't get behind him the way that they should, that he could go for greener pastures and a more lucrative contract in the WWE?
I definitely think there's a chance, and wrestling Jericho and becoming friends with Jericho might convince him that he needs to go to WWE. And yes, part of what Jericho says is a work, but Jericho is one of those guys that believes that if you don't wrestle in WWE on the big stage, that whatever you've done outside is not as big as anything you can do in WWE. So that Jericho influence might have some weight on his decision. That is, yeah. I mean, it's the biggest North American promotion. That being said, I still think there's a good chance Omega might stay just because he's one of these guys that likes to have the creative outlet. He's not one of these guys that's going to want to be handed a script for their promo.
But he lives in Japan.
And being told what he should be doing in his matches. So I think that he will stick it out with New Japan. He really believes in that brand. He wants to be the face of that brand, and I think he will do everything he can to get in that spot. But like if you mentioned, if they do not get behind him, if he does not eventually win the IWGP World Heavyweight Championship, it would be a good idea to consider going to WWE.
The other thing, to consider with that is we've got Wrestle Kingdom coming up. The next year is New Year's Dash. New Year's Dash is always a show that is going to basically set off the storylines going into New Beginning and then into the New Japan Cup. But in between those shows is Fantasticmania, and there's a lot of off time. And so we have to really be on the lookout to see what happens with the Jericho match and then what happens at New Year's Dash. We all know that when Nakamura left 2 years ago, they did that angle where they beat Nakamura at New Year's Dash in the tag match, and then he turned on AJ Styles and got rid of both those guys.
Right.
So there's going to be eyes on Kenny come New Year's Dash the following day to see what is going to happen, because January 31st is going to come and pass before the New Beginning shows and before the New Japan Cup. And so we really don't... it's just like they always say in wrestling, you never say never.
Yeah.
And we don't really... No one actually... Except for Kenny Omega, no one really knows what this guy is actually for real going to do. I don't see him leaving, but at the end of the day, that's one of the stories we're going to be tracking. Another one is the Indian TV deal that New Japan just signed.
Maybe they should sign Jinder Mahal. I heard he's a big draw over there.
So they just signed a TV deal. Let me look this up because from what I understand, it's not necessarily the biggest Indian television deal or anything like that. It's D Sport, which is apparently it's a brand new sports channel in India.
Okay.
But there's basically about they're going to be broadcasting about 70 million homes across.
Wow.
To put that in perspective, though, Comet, which shows, and I'm not a sociologist. I don't know. I don't track, I'm not Dave Meltzer. I don't track TV ratings and have all the understanding of all that. I don't know what the viewer habits of Indian people are with that in India specifically. But I should say Indian national. It's probably more politically correct. But Comet is in 75 million homes based, or Pop TV brings Impact to 70 million homes in the US, and then USA brings Monday Night Raw and SmackDown to about 95 million homes in viewership. So 70 million is nothing to snuff your nose at, especially since just the fact that they're going to be exposed to a whole new market. And I think WWE is trying to get into that market too. So the fact that New Japan just signed a deal on a new sports network to be shown to people over there.
Definitely a big deal. And that's just part of that global expansion that we've been talking about.
And then aside from that, if you are on the, if you are a subscriber to New Japan World, you have access to all the awesome shows that are on there. But weekly, they always will, and they're trying to do this to bring in new fans. They put out a free match or a free video every week. And this past week, they put out, and by the time this airs, it'll have already been a couple weeks, but they put out the Wrestling Observer newsletter match of the year for, I believe it was 2015, or maybe it was 2014.
2015, I think.
It was 2015, because AJ Styles debuted in 2016.
Right.
AJ Styles versus Minoru Suzuki from the G1 Climax. I think it was night 14. I could be wrong. I'll have to go back, but that was rated 4 3/4, I believe, by Dave. But most people rated it at 5, and it got match of the year.
Yeah, so definitely, I mean, you want to sample this New Japan content and you still kind of leery about all the good stuff we've been saying and everybody else says. They give you a free match every week.
They give you a match of the year.
Yeah, not just like any, a 3-star World Tag League match. They're giving you a big, near 5-star world title match
What's AJ's best match in WWE? The Roman match or the Cena match?
Probably the Cena match.
Okay, so if you are an AJ Styles fan and you like his work in WWE and that's all you've seen, you haven't seen him in Japan. His work in Japan is better than his work in WWE.
Yeah.
As crazy as that sounds, and that's not a knock on his WWE work because he's been the best wrestler in the last 2 years.
And that New Japan run is pretty much what got him noticed by WWE because, if AJ Styles, he was, the face of TNA for that whole run there. And after leaving TNA, WWE had no interest in him. Then he goes to New Japan for 2 years, and he's the hottest, wrestler on the planet.
So, with that being said, I believe his match with probably Nakamura in my book, his final match he did at Wrestle Kingdom is probably his best. But in my book, anyways, there are many people who disagree with me. Most people... and I'm in the minority, but most people, the majority, think his match with Suzuki from that G1 is his best New Japan match. And he had a lot of 4 3/4 to 5-star matches while he was there. I've heard Dave Meltzer say that this match wouldn't even be in the top 10 of this year. I don't know that I agree with that. But I mean, when we were doing our match of the year candidates, we literally had 10.
Yeah, I mean, the list
matches.
Is ridiculously long of just quality stuff.
But if you haven't not seen AJ Styles versus Minoru Suzuki and you like New Japan or you like AJ Styles and you like Free, which we all do, you need to check that match out.
Right.
It's I think it's 25 minutes, so it's not even it'll feel like it's 12. It's an awesome match.
Don't be an ignorant idiot like Disco Inferno and not know who Minoru Suzuki is.
Wait,
learn
Suzuki doesn't, or Disco Inferno said he didn't know who Minoru Suzuki was?
Yeah, there was this whole thing pretty much on Twitter. Somebody posted a gif of Suzuki against, I forget who he was. They were doing like the strong style palm strikes and Disco, so they look like sissy strikes. And he didn't know who Minoru Suzuki was, and yeah, it was this whole crazy thing that happened. And so yeah, don't be like Disco Inferno. Learn about Minoru Suzuki. Watch this match against AJ Styles.
Shout out to Bad Luck Fale. He this just dropped today that he opened up a dojo in New Zealand. It's going to be pro wrestling. So shout out to the underboss, the underboss of the Bullet Club. He, who I think, sometimes Bad Luck Fale can be pretty bad, but for a guy his size, he's awesome.
I mean, just by looking at him, I was like, oh, this guy's going to be trash. But he actually does have decent matches. And even in the
I loved his Tanahashi match in the G1.
Yes, in the G1, he does perform very well.
I thought he should have gone over on Tanahashi in that match, but whatever.
Yeah, that would have been a big win for him. But yeah, he's a big guy who can work, and he does have decent matches. I mean,
but there's a renaissance going on in Australia. I think Okada actually. This is other news. I would have to get more details, but Okada just did a show in Australia.
Right, and Will Ospreay's been talking about moving to Australia.
Yeah, he's talking about moving there. He's been touring there, and there's apparently all these talented wrestlers that we don't even know about or been exposed to. And New Japan is in talks, from what I understand, with maybe bringing some of these guys or even doing a partnership. So it's really awesome. And, Bad Luck Fale's down there. He's trying to give back to the business. And his dojo is going to be wrestling centered. They also have a striking coach who I'd have to look up who that was, but apparently it's a very accomplished, former, world, elite level, martial artists. So I mean, if you live, I don't know, we're hoping at some point, guys, if you're listening to this podcast, we assume many of you are going to be American, but hopefully we get international people. We've got several people in our group that are over from that area, so check out the wrestling school.
Joe Saba and
Joe Saba.
Let us know about what's the Australia scene's looking like, man.
Is Wilson Zerzula, I believe, shout out, I think that guy is also from New Zealand, if I remember. I could be wrong. I'll find out the name,
Okay.
but we'll shout him out when we find out his name. So that's pretty cool. And then I guess just to close out the show, and we'll just talk about this very briefly. There's been speculation, out there that in 2018 there are talks that New Japan may be doing a new faction.
Which is pretty big. When you start watching New Japan, you will learn that they love factions. There are a ton of factions right now. You have Chaos, Bullet Club, LIJ, Suzuki Gun, Team Taguchi Japan. Did I miss any?
I think
those are the big factions. And so
the thing here is, in the past, New Japan has always had factions, because we talked about this earlier in the show, how it's very tag team centric on their everyday house shows. With that being the case, they don't have a lot. We've talked also about how the tag team division has kind of sucked over the years. So how do they have all these tag team matches if the tag team division, the center tag teams, isn't the focus? It's because they are always putting together these combinations of factions.
And then you'll get, 6-man tag, 8-man tag, 10-man tags, because the factions are that big.
Exactly. So with that being the case, the Bullet Club at this point, they in America are killing it on merchandise, but in storyline, and they're kind of bloated, very similar to like how the NWO was. They can't almost afford to bring in new members.
Right.
LIJ at this point is probably the hottest act in New Japan as far as like the factions are concerned. Chaos, which at one point was the most dominant heeled faction, has taken a backseat to everybody else. They have top stars, but as a faction, the central focus is kind of off them. And then Minoru Suzuki came back from that run that they did in Noah, brought Suzuki Gun in, and they haven't really gotten over. In the beginning, it was awesome.
Right, that New Year's Dash angle was awesome.
But they haven't really taken off this year. They've kind of been relegated to being like mid-card to like jobber status.
Right, I mean, Suzuki's been feuding with Toru Yano all year.
And then they brought in, and then Taguchi has his team, which is mainly made up of the Seki Gun. If you're familiar with what Seki Gun means, it just means all the other guys who are not affiliated with any faction. Over the year, they've been teaming with Taguchi, and then eventually Taguchi gave a name to that called Taguchi Japan, and it's a rotating roster of when I say face, I mean baby face individuals who will team up to face all these heel factions with him, but they're a comedy team for the most part.
Right, and Taguchi pretty much considers himself the coach of the faction, and Taguchi, he's a very good wrestler, but he does do a lot of comedy spots in his match, and he does a lot of hip attacks.
So the talk is a couple things. One, that New Japan wants to focus more on homegrown talent, because a lot of these factions are made up of gaijin. And then the other thing too is that they need more face talent that can be taken as like a serious opposition to LIJ, because LIJ, let's face it, no matter what the fans say, LIJ are heels, Bullet Club are heels, and Chaos are heels.
No, Chaos are faces.
Chaos are not faces.
That's Okada's. Isn't Okada a babyface?
Okada's not a babyface.
He's not?
It's New Japan. They don't hold strict to that, but Chaos has always been heels.
But I feel like Chaos has been feuding with LIJ though.
Yeah, because it's faction warfare. But at the end of the day, like, they're not baby faces. They started as a heel group. If anything,
I know they started as a heel group, but I feel
they didn't turn.
I feel like they're a face group.
They're tweeners, if anything. Toru Yano cheats all the time. Ishii is not a face.
Well, Ishii's not a face.
Ishii's not a face.
What?
Goto's not a face, man.
What? Dude.
So anyway, with this being the case, they are trying. There's rumors that in 2018 there will be a focus. We don't know all the details yet, but there's been internal discussions that there will be a face Japanese faction that is going to be developed. We don't know more than that, but that's, kind of something to look out for. Just keep your eyes peeled if you start seeing, some of these guys grouping together in tag teams. That might be an indicator with the storyline that something might happen. Plus, you never know. We might see that the dissolvement of some of these other. I can see Suzuki Gun breaking up easily.
Yeah, definitely. And like you mentioned, Bullet Club is really big right now and probably should get rid of some members. Maybe we can even see a split between Bullet Club, and that creates another faction somehow.
Well, I'm waiting for the Cody Omega match.
Well, they're like best friends now.
Well, I'm waiting for the Cody Omega match. So we are recording right now. It is December 1st. This show is going to drop. What day is that going to be, Jeremy?
December 12th.
Okay, so that's Tuesday. So you guys can look forward to every Tuesday hearing from Keepin It Strong Style, the ASA podcast. And on December the 15th, we will be dropping a bonus episode. We're going to be doing our year-end award preview. So not the actual announcement, but we're going to be going over the categories, the different it won't be too in-depth, but we'll be going over all the different candidates, the things that happen throughout the year.
Yeah, to help you kind of decide if you're new to New Japan, you want to vote. This show will kind of help you decide. We'll inform you about all the nominees and help you if you're voting.
And we will be, as of December 1st, here in the next few weeks, maybe even the next few days, we're going to be dropping our award list, so our survey. We're going to be dropping it on like the New Japan Pro Wrestling Reddit. We'll be dropping it on different forums.
Right. In our Facebook group, the Wrestling Squared Circle. You can follow our show at KI Strong Style on Twitter. We'll be dropping it there. The Social Suplex Twitter page at Social Suplex, and the Facebook page, facebook.com/Social Suplex. You'll find the survey.
We want you guys to vote. We want to see what, I know what I think my favorite match of the year was, or who my favorite wrestler was, or I know who I think was the best tag team, but
we want to interact with you guys. We want you to be part of the show. We want everybody's voice to be heard.
Yeah, and, if you don't mess up our awards. Don't do oh crap. People are gonna do satirical whatever. It's right. Fine. But we're gonna be dropping that. So give us a holler. Also, hit us up if you guys got suggestions for the show, questions, things you want to hear from us, anything like that. Right. If you wanna contribute to the show in somehow, we're open to it. Let us know.
Definitely. You can hit me up on Twitter at Jeremy L. Donovan. You can find me in the Wrestling Squared Circle Facebook group. We're still working on getting the young boy on social media.
You can hit me up. All you got to do is go to my tag team partner, Jeremy Donovan, and say, hey, this is for the young boy, Joshua Smith. Right. But was there any... That covers everything that we got for this show.
That's going to wrap it up for this week. Make sure you are subscribed to the Social Suplex Podcast Network so you can keep catching our show, One Nation Radio, SMC Podcast, The Ricky and Clive Wrestling Show, and One Nation Live. Make sure you leave us a rating and review, and we'll see you next week. Goodbye and good night. Bang!
Bang, bang.